Hey guys, welcome to the Parrott Bros. I'm Dom.
I'm Rob.
And let's get stuck into it. Now, this video is all about selection. So we've been to MK, we've been to Westfield, and we've been to GBS. All three are very different, but very similar at the same time. There's a lot of things to consider. We're going to go through things like cost, delivery time. You coming up here? We're going to also play with the dog a little bit. So yeah, we need to go over cost. We need to go over like accessibility, parts they offer as second hand, what donor cards you can use or if you buy it new. And for you personally, as well as us, budget is going to be really important. If you've got a lot of money and you want to buy everything new, then great. If you don't have a lot of money and you want to do the more budget option, we're going to cover kind of all of them. We're going to go with a bit of a budget build because obviously we want to build a kit car for as little as possible, but also have a great time and look to maybe modify it in the future. There's a little hint. So yeah, we're basically just going to discuss the options available. So let's start with, let's go with GBS, right? So GBS, quite a nice design.
Lovely design.
They've also got things like all metal panels, other than the nose, cone and wheel arches, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, they were fiberglass.
So they said that the rigidity,
it was 3 times as strong.
Because they've got the panels rolled over the actual frame and glued. Bonded, glued. So it gives you that a little bit more in the way of
structural
solidity. The other things with GBS is quick delivery time.
Yeah, they're very quick, like 8 to 10 weeks was it, I believe?
Yeah, something like that. And obviously it changes, so at the time, that was right. They also had things like they machined all their parts on site. Everything was made on site.
Yeah, they had a very good machine shop inside, very clean, nice extras.
And obviously, if you needed anything, you could ring them. They would make it off for you. And they're also always progressing, like all the other companies. They're always progressing, always trying new things, always designing things differently, which is cool. What else about GBS? So they were more leaning towards the newer stuff because obviously, and all new parts, because obviously all new parts is ideal because everything's going to be new. It'll have warranty. It's less likely to cause issues, shall we say. They'll get the better performance. And that was the 2.5 Duratec crate engine, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So that was new Mazda gearbox?
Mazda gearbox, Mazda diff.
Yeah. All new. And that was about 27 grand?
Yeah, I think it was around the 27,000 mark.
So quite
all new.
Quite pricey if you look at the other end of the spectrum where you use a donor car, and obviously you could do it for maybe half that. So there's a lot to think about. If you can afford all new and you literally just want to assemble it, that's ideally an option because you get all the parts. Yep. You don't have to take anything off a used car. Yep. And everything is brand new. We're talking hubs, we're talking steering columns, wheels, everything is brand new.
Spanking new.
Brand spanking new. So that's definitely up there. That's up there with the more pricey options. They also offered a kit option using a Mark 1 donor, wasn't it, that one?
Yeah, it was a Mark 1,
Yeah, so the Mark 1, which are getting a bit pricey now. We'll have a quick look.
Anything from 3,500 upwards for looking at a semi-decent one with good miles and...
Obviously, we could look at MOT failures, which is always a good option because that's the way you're going to get a bargain. Same with if you were to get a Mark 2 one, because some of the other kits offer that option. But obviously, if you wanted to get a nice one that's got good service history, because effectively you're going to be using the engine, some of the brakes, some of the drivetrain. Ideally, you want one that's been looked after. You can buy any old hack; it doesn't really matter. But if you're going to the point of spending £10,000-15,000 on a kit and a build,
you want a good solid engine.
You're going to want you're going to want something that's been looked after, something that's had plenty done to it and been looked after over the time. Because otherwise, you could build it all and then have nothing but problems. So we're saying Mark 1's a couple, 2-3 grand.
I'd say there's a few starting at sort of 2 grand upwards, 3.5 for one with semi-decent miles.
Yeah, so
plus,
it's all right. It's all right.
It's not horrendous.
And that was what was the GBS price for the?
Their basic price was 9,000, but I think he said for a semi-good spec was about 15,000.
With everything included.
With everything included, yeah, all the billet aluminium bits.
Okay, so we'll go with top end of the price just because you know what it's like, and you buy the basic kit. You're never going to buy the basic kit because you want 4-pot front brakes. You're going to want maybe aluminium
Uprights,
hubs, lower
yeah.
upright, lower uprights, lighter uprights.
Yeah, those arms, they were like
Those
half the weight.
crazy light arms, yeah.
Makes all the big difference.
Well, of course it does. Yeah. Plus, you're going to want a little bit of carbon and whatever. So we'll say 15. So we got 15 and 27. So they're your options. But that 15, was that including buying the car?
No,
No. So that's
just the kit.
okay. So if you went 13, 14 plus a couple for the kit, you're looking at sort of 16,
Couple for
17
the car, yeah.
for the car. Sorry, yeah. So you're looking 16, 17 plus. So you're looking at 17 and 27. Now this is speculatory because obviously we haven't bought it and it could differ.
Prices
But
change.
it's just to give you a rough idea. Moving on to Westfields. So Westfields,
I've had a Westfield.
you have had a Westfield. Westfields, great car. They've been around for basically forever. Real big companies. So with that big company, you get things like the peace of mind that you know the kit's been well designed, it's been built, it's been around forever. There's a lot of documentation online about it, all that kind of stuff. They have quite a few bits on shelf. They've got a parts department, so if you want to call them, there is a couple of guys who work solely in parts and delivery, which is great. Prices, their kit was based on a 2-litre blacktop Zetec engine, which is 150 horsepower, I think it was, and that uses Mazda gearbox. You'll notice some similarities across the board here. And they were that was an all new kit, wasn't it?
All new was 20, I think.
So it's 20-ish grand for an all new kit, and that's based on 150 horsepower, 2-litre Zetec with the Mazda running train, and that's with the what was that rear end you liked with the swoopy bit?
I believe it's the FW. I'll double check.
So they do like a newer style rear end. So instead of being like a square tub, they have like this little like spoilery bit. We'll just do a bit of googling. That's the one. What's that?
They call it a Sport Turbo, but no, that is the.
But yeah, so it's got like a little bit of a spoiler at the top, a little bit of a spoiler at the bottom. Of course, I'm going to show you a photo right now. And that also has the louve or the vented bonnet, doesn't it? It has those two cutouts in the bonnet.
With the bonnet that folds forward.
Yeah, with the bonnet that folds forwards.
Easier to work on.
Yeah, and that was sort of 20-ish grand for a base spec.
Yeah.
Over the counter. What did he say about MX?
He said they do the Mark 1, but they didn't.
They didn't have a great deal of info on it, did they? They weren't particularly. Westfield, I must admit, when we went there, lovely guy, really nice company. Everything's very good, and if you like Westfields or you want a Westfield, I would definitely recommend getting one. But they were definitely leaning more towards the new stuff because I guess for them it makes sense. Is a lot less hassle because they're providing you with all brand new parts, all brand new kit, engine, everything's brand new. So issues-wise, you shouldn't run into any or many. And they tend to sell more of the new stuff than they do the used stuff. They do a used kit, but their website isn't super hot on getting a price for everything included because it gives you like a spec, but it doesn't include certain parts and it doesn't tell you what you need to source yourself. I'm sure if you contact them or email them, they'll give you all the information. But they do a kit for the Mark 1. They'll supply you with a kit, all the parts you need without the donor parts. And they do have a full build guide. GBS didn't have a...
No.
So GBS didn't have a specific book build guide. They did have... Some videos, some documentation, but they didn't. They are working on it at the moment and doing a full build, but at the present time of recording this video, they didn't have a full sort of start to finish manual. The Westfield and the MK both did come with a full manual.
Yep.
What to do step by step.
How to do it to get you through IVA.
What you need and all that kind of good stuff. So that's definitely a perk for those two. You found the price on what have they got listed?
It says price from 5,695.
But as we discussed with them, it wasn't everything included.
No.
So definitely reach out to them if you're looking at buying a Westfield as a kit to do with a donor car. They'll be able to provide you more information on that.
The one thing they did say is if you ever wanted to change an engine with it.
Oh yeah, it was specific. Yeah, I remember
Westfield.
Now. So Westfield, they said that if you buy a chassis for, say, an MX-5 engine or for the Ford 1.8 and 2-litre engine, whatever, you can only use it with that because it's made basically to fit. So you would have to actually physically adapt the chassis by cutting welding.
If you ever needed to upgrade to a different engine.
If you wanted to change engine. Whereas with the other two, they're sort of a blank canvas-ish, and they make mounts that are relevant to different models.
Different engine, yeah.
Right, so moving on to MK. MK...
Lovely car again.
Yeah, again, lovely looking car. All a very similar design, but have different aspects, different shapes on the nose cone, different rear ends, wheel arches, bonnets and all that kind of stuff. MK, really big in the sort of donor market. They do a full new option. You can buy all different bits from them, but they are more for bike engines, MX-5 engines and Z-Techs.
They
Although
do
you can
S2000, yeah.
They do an S2000 one. So there is quite a lot of options there. Where's your ducky? Go get your ducky, you cheeky monkey. So yeah, MK, real big range of vehicles and options available. And their price what's their price on their website? Throw their website up now.
Let's get that website.
And they've got, again, a full build manual, start to finish. They also have a sort of a group, like a WhatsApp and Facebook group for people once you've bought the kit, who can obviously discuss with other people who bought your kit. Where's your duck? Where's the duck? They can get it. They can obviously, you can discuss with other people who've built them. I met some of the lads on the track day. They showed me what they've done. We discussed it. Some have turboed it, some haven't. Some have done Z-Techs, who are now Z-Techs. Some have done the V-Tech, the Honda option, and looked at supercharging it. So there's a wealth of information on there. Some of the guys are mechanics, some are complete novices who've had a go and still managed to do it. So really great idea. Their MK Indy R, which is probably the one, if we were going to get one, is what we would look at.
Yep.
And they a price of $8,780 on their website for a base kit, and that is using, how many items would you say from the donor MX-5? About 20? Yeah. So you're basically
over the main.
You buy a Mark II, not 2.5, a Mark II MX-5 1.8. Ideally, if you want to buy an S Icon Jasper Conran, was there an IS? There was 4.
Yes.
I'll list them in the description. But basically, you can buy some, and they come with either a 5-speed or a 6-speed gearbox. They come with a limited slip diff, as well as a few extras that you could probably sell on afterwards. The 5-speed box, I believe, is the one to go for because it's slightly stronger, but the 6-speed box is worth a lot of money, so you could always sell that, buy another box. You get the gist. But their kit, when we spoke to him, he said it's about 10 or 11 grand out the door, because obviously by the time you've put a couple of nice bits on, like maybe some uprated brakes and
a nice billet aluminium pedal box.
Billet aluminium pedal box, rather than trying to adapt the original pedals, maybe a little bit of carbon. You're looking
a little
at
bit of carbon.
Carbon front rear arches and
carbon
all that
everything.
good stuff, yeah. Then you could obviously be towards sort of 11 or 12, but that's still, if you look at that, that is still a lot cheaper as a donor setup than the other two, which for us, I mean, we're all about budget. If we were going to do this, we don't really want to splash 30 grand, because for 30 grand you could buy
a very nice car,
or a Bentley GT Continental, or anything really. I mean, 30 grand will get you quite a lot in the used market.
Not at the moment.
Well, maybe not with COVID inflated prices, but I don't know. The big heavy petrol stuff's still pretty expensive.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But basically, it gets you quite a lot. And we didn't want to go mad. We wanted to do a budget build. We wanted to show that you could buy a ropey old MX-5 for £1,000, 1,500 quid.
Looking now, yeah. Well, there's one there for 400 quid, and that's only got 53,000 on the clock. So,
so yeah, you could buy a ropey old MX-5
lucky.
that's got reasonably good service history, a bit rusty, but doesn't matter, because we're going to do the world a favour and take it off the road because it's a rust bucket. Obviously, we may or may not tell the owner that, but that was kind of the way we wanted to do it, because an MX-5 is 145 horsepower from factory. Whether it's still that or not, I don't know. And then if we decided later on down the line we wanted to do some mods to it, maybe turbo it, if we decided to, because that's another couple of grand.
If it needs that extra
if
little
it
bit
needs
of power.
it, but it's 145 brake per ton on the 145 brake for the engine output, and a kit car is 600 kilos. So you're looking at nearer 240, 250 brake a ton. So
should be pretty enjoyable.
More than my S4. So whether we need it or not, I don't know. But that was kind of what we were leaning to. I think we've sort of had a bit of a chat about it off camera, and I think we're going to go for the MK kit.
Yeah.
Solely for the basis that it's the most local to us, only an hour away.
Yeah.
That's not the reason, but it is obviously Neil and Sean there, top guys,
Lovely guys.
really helpful.
Always at the end of the phone if you need them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're not against the other two companies. Both real nice guys, really happy to help. But obviously, we're just going through the reasons we're going with MK. They have the best. What is it?
Website?
Documentation, parts, and everything for doing a full donor build. Because at the end of the day, we wanted to do a budget build, like a lot of you.
We don't have endless pots of cash.
Exactly. We both got full-time jobs. We're going to be doing this in our spare time. So obviously, by eating up our spare time, we're going to need to give the missus a few quid to go out and do a bit of shopping and buy some dinner without us, because we're going to be hiding in the garage for a while. So we wanted to keep the cost down, because then at the end of the day, we could spend more money on track days, trips,
Yeah.
carbon, roll cages, whatever it is. Once
Maybe
you get
that
carried
big
away,
turbo.
maybe even a turbo. But yeah, so basically we've decided that we are going to go for the MK kit. Loads of reasons, mainly because they're the most documented on the donor kit, and there's so many people that have built the donor kit. I think he said, how many did he say he got through a year? It was a few hundred, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think they've got a couple of thousand out on the road.
Yeah, so there's loads of information out there about it. It's well documented. It's the most budget build. You use the most used parts out of any of the builds. Go through some of bring that website back up again. We'll go through some of the bits they take off, just to give people an idea of what they use.
So with your MX5 Mark II, you get the engine and auxiliaries, so the diff and the gearbox, your wiring loom, gear lever, prop shaft, differentials, rear uprights, rear calipers. Obviously, we'll probably service them, make them like new.
Yeah, we'll either service them or replace them.
Yeah, so obviously we're probably going to upgrade a few bits, so some of these bits might not mean anything, but a horn, a steering wheel.
Yeah, so you're using the dash clocks.
Dash clocks, yeah, that was very nice the way they did that.
Yeah,
as well.
so yeah, that was another reason, is they use the original clocks. Now you have to consider, when you're building a kit car, it needs to be able to pass a full test, like basically a really, really strict MOT. It needs to pass for emissions. It needs to pass for safety concerns. Like, it needs to have an indicator on the dash that tells you the lights are on. It needs to have an indicator on the dash that tells you the indicators are working. What other? A handbrake light.
Yep.
All these things that you may not consider when building a kit car, and you think, oh yeah, we'll just throw all the bits in. But it had all of that in that one cluster, like a normal dash clock set that you take out of a TT or whatever car. Everything's included in that clock. Now, they actually mounted that into the centre dash.
It looks really smart.
And it does look really smart. And it's easy. You don't have to put in 8, 10 dials. You don't have to put in little indicator lights for the switches and all that kind of stuff.
You don't have to run a separate loom.
You're using the column off an MX5. So you have the
Yeah.
indicators, you have the lights, you have the windscreen
reset,
squares. It's all there. When you turn and come back again, it will knock off again.
Self-cancel, yeah.
Self-cancel.
I know my Westfield, it only had like a little toggle switch. So
Yes, you have to remember to
half
turn it
mile
off.
down the road, still be indicating.
That was the... So that was another reason, because that's why we like the idea of the MX5, because it is still, you get some creature comforts.
Yeah.
But it's just nice to be able to reuse everything rather than buying new. I mean, we're saving 10, 15 grand. Admittedly, it's not a brand new engine, but well documented for being wicked
bulletproof,
for hundreds of thousands of miles. And how much are they on eBay for a new engine?
I think we see for about 50 quid.
Engines, gearboxes, diffs, apart from the LSD, if you wanted an LSD, they are a few hundred quid, but the likelihood of you blowing an LSD is low. But I mean, engines, click on used. I'm sure when we looked, you could get an engine and a gearbox. So engines, what? 175 quid, 300 quid, 200 quid. Yeah, so you could probably buy one 50k's full service history for like 300-400 quid. So worst case, you could always buy a spare engine if you think yours is a bit smoky. We're going to do another video. I guess the next video of us is picking a car.
Yeah, trying to find one and.
The other reason we did look at VTECs, but to buy
to get age appropriated plate. That's what I.
Well, it was that, and it was to do the VTEC engine, you'd have to effectively buy either an S2000 or buy an S2000 engine and gearbox. But the issue with that is obviously S2000s are £5,000 to £7,000. The engine and gearbox, last time I looked, I think we found one for 3 or 4 grand. But You wouldn't have enough parts off an S2000 to make it an age-related plate, so you'd end up have to be in a Q plate, or obviously you're spending copious amounts of money trying to get it done.
Yeah. Buying all new.
Buying all new. So that was kind of the other reason why we went away from that. It is possible, don't get me wrong, it is possible, but like I said before, we want to keep it to a reasonable budget, just so that if we do have any expenditure that we don't see come in, we've got a few quid in the bank just in case. I remember
Neil saying that with the RX5, there is the possibility of always upgrading. They machine a plate, don't they, to go onto the gearbox.
Yeah, so worst case you can change it.
And that was a Honda Civic engine.
Oh yeah, so right. They do make they make it so that you can use a Honda Civic, like an EP3 Type R engine, in the kit. They'll make a plate that goes between the gearbox, MX5 gearbox, and the
so once you're all
the
registered,
EP3 engine. So you could swap it afterwards if you wanted to, but the only issue with that is obviously the engine is left to right, not transverse. So you'd have to then get a baffled sump, and there's other things available. So it's horses for courses. We wanted to build something that you guys could follow, that we could do reasonably easily. I mean, we're both electricians, we're not mechanics, so
fingers crossed.
We'll have a go. We've got a manual, that was the other thing we wanted. But yeah, so that's kind of the reason we wanted to go for that. So I guess the next thing we need to do is find an MX5. So we'll do another video. Stop licking the microphone, you chicken monkey. We'll do another video of trying to find an MX5, looking at it, what to look for, things to check, like the engine isn't smoking, because that's the thing we're going to be using. Upgrades that could come on the MX5 that you'll be able to use across onto the kit. And then I guess we need to ring Neil at MK and order a kit. Yeah. I guess we'll do another video on that, because we're going to go through what you can order. Extras, things to consider when ordering. And yeah, all the other good stuff, I guess. Lead time, because MK had quite a decent lead time, didn't they? Because they're quite popular at the moment. So hopefully he did say he was going to try and get that down. So we'll see when we order it what that time is. Yeah. And we'll go from there. But yeah, hope you found that helpful. Let us know what you'd go for. Would you go for the newer option with all the new parts, or do you like using the old parts, or what is it you prefer? Until the next one, guys, bye for now.